would it be fair to say that because of the change in information between the first interrogation and the second interrogation that can be misleading?
Objection calls for speculation from whose perspective?
Wow.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Is it fair to say that someone who is being detained would perceive that as being misleading when there's two different reasons why they're being detained that was told to them?
Objection, speculation. This witness cannot know what is in someone else's mind.
Calls for speculation.
I feel like this is pure insanity. He lied to them, but he's upset that they didn't tell him everything they know. All right. He should end the cross-exam as well.
At
He's
any
in this
point
point.
in the interrogations, did you knowingly lie about the information that you had?
There was information I withheld from you, yes.
So it'd be fair to say that you lied.
Objection mischaracterizes this officer's answer.
It's argumentative, sustained as to the form of the question.
Just for the record, there is a point in there where you
Sustained
stated
as to
that
the
he
form of
lied.
the question.
Why did you continue to withhold information repeatedly?
I guess at which point? Through the whole, are we talking about in the middle of the second interrogation at this point? What
Do both
what are we talking about?
interrogations. Do both of them.
Well, there really wasn't a first one, because when I got interrogation doesn't truly begin until I'm asking you incriminating questions potentially after you've agreed to waive your rights and speak, something you didn't do on the first day. On the second one, quite honestly, it goes back to what I've stated in my earlier testimony. I wanted to make sure the information I was getting from you was truthful. I wanted to make sure that I didn't lead you down a path of potential lies. And third, quite frankly, Mr. Brooks, I didn't believe if I gave you the information you were going to tell me anything.
You made reference to the first interrogation saying that there was no waiver of that interrogation?
Objection.
Oh.
I'm referring to what he just said at the beginning of the answer.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Next question.
Grounds for the sustain?
Next question.
Grounds for the sustain, Your Honor?
She
Next
just
question.
answered you. Next question.
So I can't get no grounds. Okay. So you made reference to not being sure if you would. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. You wasn't sure if you were going to get the information you were seeking?
Correct.
And is that what led you to lie about the information you knew?
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony.
Grounds.
It's argumentative, sustained.
Did that lead you to not be forthright about the information you knew?
Objection. Argumentative.
Sustained as to the form of the question. His words were that he withheld. You may.
That led you to withhold information that you had obtained?
I'm sorry, did what part with all that? Can you restart the question?
Because you were not sure if you were going to get the information you were seeking, that led you to withhold information that you had obtained.
Well, again, as I've stated in prior testimony, strong part of the reason I withheld information is I wanted to gauge how honest and truthful you would be. I think it's important to know you lied to me, and this was proven by evidence about your mother owning a vehicle. You lied about coming out here in a tan, possible Kia. So there were lies that were told at this point. You lied about being body slammed by officers. That was later proven to be not true.
Advise the jury of a couple different things at this point. Obviously, ultimately, the juror will determine the credibility
It's the truth.
of
I
all
wish you would let them
witnesses
do
and
it.
the weight of the testimony to give for any witness. So whatever any person's opinion about the testimony or previous statements or information from another individual, I'm telling you, is not evidence. You need to determine for yourselves what the facts are in this case. And the other thing I want to remind the jury of is that an accused has the right to remain silent, and when that silence cannot be used against him, since there was a comment earlier. To the extent that it was commented on, I'm going to instruct the jury to disregard that as well. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say real quick. I wish that she would let him say it. You know, it's funny right now and it's insane. So basically, Darrell's trying to have an argument with him, but like there's so many. He's trying to have an argument with him in like attorney format. I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say. Like, they keep objecting because he's trying to get like the argument started. That's all he cares about. But every time he tries to start it up, an objection flies out and they tell him like, oh, sustained, you move on to the next question. Then he tries to reword it, but it's basically the same thing. Like, it's funny to see, but man, I wish you would have let him continue, because he lied about literally everything about himself. And it's weird, I don't know if he thought in his mind nobody could find that stuff out or really what, but I'm repeating myself at this point.
I'm sorry, continuing. So it just was that...
It's narrative at this point. He's going to ask his next question.
Okay.
If the state needs to redirect, they will.
You made reference to, well, let me back up from there. Is it standard practice
To lie?
in your agency to withhold information in an interrogation?
Yes, it can be to gauge truthfulness.
And what do you mean by it can be?
So obviously, so a person understands what's going on, you'll give them the basics of why you want to question them. But you're never going to tell them every detail because you want to see if they're being truthful. You want to see what details come out.
Does he not watch
So-
like...
Would it be fair to say by saying that it can be means that it's not all the time used in that fashion?
Oftentimes it is. Oftentimes there's information that I won't tell a suspect unless, it's something where I've actually caught the suspect in the act and we both saw the same things. But yes, typically if I want to make sure they're telling truth, if there's certain information I have, I will withhold that. I'll see if they're willing to provide that, and if not, at some point confront them with that information.
You had a partner with you during both investigations, but I'm referring to the second one primarily. With that officer had used the same method if they were taking the lead in the investigation at that point?
Objections, cause for speculation.
Sustained is the form of the question.
would it be fair to say that the way you interrogate is your method specifically?
Yes.
So it'd be fair to say that that is not standard policy of your agency.
Correct.
But does he not like watch crime movies and TV shows and stuff? It's like in every movie I've seen, they never tell the criminal like what they know just directly. Like, no, I wouldn't even expect that.
You made reference to the suspect's family. Specifically, I'm referring to the children. How were you able to come into the knowledge of the suspect's children?
I believe I asked you about him.
I'm referring specifically to where they lived at the time of the incident.
What?
That was information that came afterwards. Well, actually, I don't recall. I don't remember if you told me specifically where your older daughter lived that day or not.
Well, we be fair to say we saw a lot of the second interrogation. Would that be fair to say?
Portions of it.
Well, yeah, portions of it, but a lot of it.
I don't know exactly how much we watched. That's really, I guess it depends on your definition of a lot.
At any time, do you recall it being stated where the defendant's children lived?
Not that I can recollect watching today.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
The second interrogation?
Yes.
Once again, if Darrell
Have you
doesn't
seen
say
it in its entirety?
it's not true.
Yes.
It can't be true if it didn't come from him. That's the only way it works. He's basically run out of questions, but
Do you recall
refuses to end it.
We'll scratch that. In reference to the second interrogation, in reference to finding the phone, did you ever find the phone of the detainee?
You're asking if I personally did?
Yes.
I didn't, no.
Do you recall where the phone was recovered?
In your vehicle.
When you say your vehicle, who are you referring to?
Don't do this.
Your mother's red Ford Escape that you were driving that day.
Why would you
So it'd be
ask
fair to
this?
say it wasn't my vehicle, as you
Oh my-
stated. Grounds.
Sustained is to the form of the question.
So wait a second. Was he kind of, sort of trying to say like, oh, how can you say it's my mom's? Is he trying to like kind of throw his mom under the bus in that moment? I mean, that really doesn't surprise me. It's weird at this point. We've seen such levels of like griminess and just lowness that it doesn't really like blow my mind or something that he would do something like that. But I think that's pretty much what he just did right now. He was trying to say like, This is not mine, it's my mom's, so maybe she possibly did it. I don't know if that's what he's doing, but it might just be heat of the moment. He's arguing with them and he's just saying whatever, like, oh, I got you, I outsmarted you, but very weird.
And what was obtained from that phone, if you recall?
I don't recall.
Do you recall asking for the code to get into the phone?
Yes, sir, I do.
At any time, did you learn at any time if the phone was able to be opened up?
I don't know if it was or not.
So what would be your reason to ask about the phone code if you didn't intend to open it up?
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony.
Grounds.
He
It's
didn't
the
say
same as to
that.
the form of the question.
Did you yourself intend to inspect the phone?
No.
So why would you ask for the code?
Well, because for the purpose of the investigation, we have people that are trained in doing that types of thing, getting into the phone, downloading the digital evidence, if they're able. So having the code would assist them in being able to do that when that time came.
And do you recall if it was more than one phone that you were attempting to access?
Yes.
Did you ask for the code for, well, back up. How many phones were you seeking to gain access to?
I believe it was 2.
And
I didn't know he
do
had
you
more than
recall
one
asking
phone.
for the code for the second phone?
Yes.
Did you inspect the second phone?
Me personally?
Yes.
No.
That's actually interesting. I didn't know he had more than one phone that day. I know he was trying to get a hold of his mom to get an Uber, but I think that's when he asked. I
And
can't
from your
recall his
recollection,
name.
what would be the significance of the phones at that point in the investigation?
Well, it's really this digital evidence that could be inside. So as it pertains to domestic abuse, it's not known if there's going to be any phone calls between yourself and Ms. Patterson. Some of the data, location data, can be relevant. Although you were arrested in Waukesha, it still helps to show that data as well. So things of that nature. We really don't know what could or could not help us until we try to see what's in there.
But yeah, I know he asked to use the phone of the guy whose house he went into that like offered him a jacket and let him use his phone to call an Uber, but to call his mom really.
At any time during the first night that you were with the detainee and during the second day, which would primarily be the second interrogation, do you recall there being any drugs and alcohol in related to the detainee?
As in whether you were under the influence?
Yes.
No, you were not.
And do you know that to be fact?
There were no signs of impairment that I observed.
He
Smell
responded
any
to him
alcohol?
calling him you.
No, sir.
Did you smell any drugs?
No, sir.
Did you find any alcohol or drugs?
No, sir.
All that proves is he did this sober. So
And
it does nothing.
during both those days, that the night of the first interrogation and the time spent during the second interrogation, someone was always with you when you had contact with the detainee. Would that be fair to say? Meaning you never had interactions with the detainee just strictly by yourself.
Not that I recall.
So it was always you and someone else.
I believe so.
Well, you were always with your partner, though, correct?
Well, I mean, he may have used the bathroom at a point. I don't remember. If I was ever alone, it was very short.
But from the best of your recollection, you were just never, for a period of time, just by yourself with the detainee.
The second day before transport, there was a period of time when Detective Stern stepped out of that interview room at Muskego. And I don't know how long it was just you and I in the room, but that's all I recall.
But nothing extended from your recollection.
No.
I don't know what he's getting at with that. Sometimes you're able to tell what he's hinting at, but like in that one, I'm not sure. Kind of stumped. I know it's nothing good though.
And was it your belief at the time that you were set to conduct the second interrogation that you believed that without the FBI present, the detainee would likely be more willing to speak with you?
Objection. Speculation.
Grounds.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Was it your belief that the second interrogation without the FBI's presence, was it your belief that the detainee would be more likely to speak with you at that time?
He may answer. Go ahead.
Yes.
He tries
Do you
so
recall
hard
how
to
you
phrase that.
came to that determination?
Yes, it was a sense of how I felt you interacted with me, the night before. As I stated with you, or stated in testimony, we had casual conversations. Part of those casual conversations were talking about sports you played, sports you enjoyed, the Packer game that day. You seemed very calm, very relaxed. You are, and you know what you're doing right now.
Would it be fair to say that you can't say for sure how I'm feeling at this moment?
Objection. Not the question that was asked, and argumentative.
Sustained.
I'm not sure what happened. It's like the question jumped for a second. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I guess he might have gotten into another question at that point. I'm not sure what he asked him. But yeah, I'll rewind a bit just in case it was my computer that did it.
You seemed very calm, very relaxed. You are, and you know what you're doing right now.
Would it be fair to say that you can't say for sure how I'm feeling at this moment?
Objection. Not the question that was asked, and argumentative.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
I wish I could have heard the actual question. I don't know if
Would
he
it be
told
fair
him
to
like,
say
you
that
know
at
what
the
you-
time of that first interrogation, you weren't sure how I was feeling?
I guess I can't get in your head, but you presented yourself as being very calm and very comfortable.
Based on your observation?
Correct.
Do you yourself have any training in psychology?
No, sir.
And there was a point in the second interrogation when you were attempting to show the detainee a video. Almost as if you was forcing it in his face. What were you attempting to show the detainee?
I was attempting to show you a video of when you drove your vehicle through the parade route.
Any reason why you were being so forceful in trying to do that?
Well, I
'Cause
felt
you're
it
a
was
coward,
very
dude.
important for you to see the damage that was caused from the incident. And Detective Stern made the statement as well. You were asking for more information, so we attempted to show you more information.
Would it be fair to say that the question of asking for more information was asked even on the first night during the first interrogation?
Yes. Yes.
He wouldn't even look at it either. It's just cowardly stuff.
Do you recall making a report of the night that, let me back up. Do you recall writing a report of your interactions with the detainee on the first night and the second morning?
Yes.
And did you write the report yourself?
So how it's done is I dictate it and then it is typed by someone else.
What do you mean by dictated?
So there's a phone system that I talk into and it's recorded and then it's later typed.
Do you recall who types it?
One of our clerical staff, I don't know specifically who it was.
So you made reference to a phone. You gestured with your right hand and made a phone, I guess, symbol. So I'm assuming that records what's being said. That'd be fair to say?
Yes, when I'm speaking into the phone.
And at that time, speaking into the phone, were you stating verbatim? Was it off the top of your head what you remember, or did you, I guess what I'm saying is, did you speak into that phone based on a report that you had already previously written or had obtained?
Well, I guess I want to make sure I understand the question.
I don't know what
Did
he
you
was
ask it
asking
again?
just now.
So I understand.
I guess I can be more clear.
Definitely. I don't know what you're saying.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, by speaking into this phone, would that have been what you recalled at the time, or would it been based on a report that was already written by you or someone else?
Okay. There was no prior report, so that what I speak into that phone and what is typed is my best recollection of the events at that time.
That just gave me a little clarity. I knew what I was trying to say, I just couldn't.
Just keep going. We don't need a little moment with you or anything of the sort. Those are the most annoying when he does that. He wants to have a friendly moment with everybody.
So at that time, when you spoke into the phone, you hadn't yet filed your report at that time.
Correct. As I'm talking, I'm completing it. So it goes into a recording and then it's later typed.
And then is it filed after being typed?
Yeah, eventually it's sent to court.
Do you recall if that was, I'm guessing that would be the night of the second interview or sometime after that?
Yes, it was the night of the second, after that interview had been completed.
After that second interrogation, had you learned any more information additionally that you didn't have during the first and second interrogations?
Yes.
And did you put that into your report?
I believe I did, if it's the one thing I'm thinking of, yes.
Do you recall how many reports you filed in relation to this incident?
I think 4, maybe 5.
Why so many?
Well, you know, you have to understand that after the second interrogation, the investigation wasn't simply complete. There were additional things that need to be done, and additional things I assisted with that led to other supplements being done.
And do you recall, well, let me back up a minute. You said 4 or 5 reports?
I believe so. I don't know the exact number.
Do you recall when the last one was completed?
I believe in June.
And would the June report contain additional information that you didn't have in November of 2021?
I don't recall either that or clarification. I'd have to see the report, I guess, to know exactly what you were driving at.
You don't recall what you reported?
Not exactly.
Do you recall what you reported in the second report?
Not exactly, no. I believe, I don't want to speculate.
So it'd be fair to say you don't recall what you reported in any report except for the first.
That is the one that is most clear because it was such a substantial piece of what I did in this investigation.
And that was the one when you spoke into the phone and it was recorded and then typed?
Well, they were all done the same way.
All reports are done the same way. And do you recall coming to the Waukesha County Jail to serve any warrants in relation to this incident?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember what they were for?
Yes, it was a search warrant for your jail property.
And do you recall what that jail property was?
Property that would have been turned over to the custody of jail when, at the time that you were, so personal belongings.
And what would personal belongings refer to exactly?
Are you asking, it could be anything you had with you. Are you specifically wanting to know what I seized?
Yes.
Your red t-shirt that you were wearing on the 21st and 22nd of November, the blue jeans, as well as socks.
And do you recall why you needed to seize the clothing?
Yes, the determination was made to go back and seize the clothes as it's the items you were wearing during the event. The parade event is what I mean by event.
Would that be the only reason why you needed to seize the clothing?
I'm glad he specified.
There was also possible DNA evidence, but I do not know how that came back.
I love when they
Did
specify
you yourself
stuff.
inspect the clothing?
I just retrieved it from the property, put it in a bag, and brought it back to the police department.
Do you recall if you seized anything else besides the clothing?
Not from your property at the jail, I didn't.
And do you recall if that was the only time you came to the Waukesha County Jail to serve a warrant?
Correct. That's the only time I recall.
Do you recall when that was?
November 30th, 2021.
So roughly about a week after the incident?
9 days.
And you made reference to bringing it back to the department. Did you learn who would be expecting the clothing?
No, I believe it would have gone out to the state crime lab.
Did you obtain any additional information from the state crime lab?
I don't believe I received any information from the state crime lab personally.
I want to go back a little bit, specifically to the night of their arrest. When did you
In the
arrive on
process,
scene to Elizabeth Street?
Shortly after you had been taken into custody.
When you arrived, what did you see?
Can't recall exactly. I believe you were already in the back seat of a squad car.
So at that time, suspect was already detained.
You were detained.
Suspect already.
Suspect
detained.
is you, Darrell Brooks.
Can you strike that last comment?
Nope, it's staying.
That was his response. It will stand.
And did you do any search of the area at that time?
I did not know.
And what did you do from that point?
At that point, myself and Detective Stern were assigned to follow Specialist Mark Howard, whose vehicle you were ultimately placed in, and follow him to our substation, where you were taken.
Do you recall well, let me back up. Do you recall seeing a lot of different law enforcement there from different jurisdictions?
Yes, I do.
What else do you recall about the scene as far as law enforcement personnel?
Basically just that they were there.
Do you recall any weapons being drawn at that point, or
I did not see any officers with weapons drawn when I arrived. There were officers with rifles across their chest, but they were not pointing them at anyone.
Any distinct vehicles to your recollection utilized by law enforcement?
Just squad cars, marked squad cars that I recall.
Do you recall seeing a vehicle that was...
Don't say used.
more like a ground rover type vehicle?
No, sir, I don't.
I thought he was gonna say, did you recall seeing the vehicle that was used? Because once again, the vehicle he used, he ditched it in somebody's driveway. But hold on, I just want to rewind it a little bit. I don't know exactly what he asked right there.
More like a ground rover type vehicle?
A ground rover?
No, sir, I don't.
I'm not sure what that's about.
And so once you came to the scene, learned that the suspect was in custody, you followed the other officer to I'm guessing the police station or whatever it was?
The substation.
Substation. I'm sorry. Substation.
Yes.
And what information did you have at that time in regards to the investigation?
The information, again, was still very limited. That you'd been loitering in the area, would receive calls, and that you were identified as a possible suspect that was in the vehicle.
Did you yourself receive those calls or any of those calls?
You mean as in like the phone calls?
Yeah, in reference to the loitering.
No, those went into dispatch, and then they were broadcast over the police radio, which I heard.
And did you immediately respond to that radio call?
Yes, I made my way to that area.
The area of Elizabeth Street?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what time that was?
It was right around, took place over a few minutes, 5:30, 5:35, getting a little after 5:30.
And what time did you arrive to the scene?
I don't know the exact time.
I want to go back to the phone really quick in reference to the phone. In the exhibit that we were shown, you made reference to not wanting someone else to claim the phone. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
What reason would someone else claim a phone that isn't theirs?
Could be their own reasons. One thing we have to do once we have possession of property, we have to make sure that we release it to the appropriate person. So that would be important.
Is it fair to say that all property obtained from a detainee is sealed?
I guess, what do you mean by sealed?
Like placing a sealed bag, pursuant to whoever's the property belongs to, it's sealed.
Typically, we would take property and probably put it in a paper or plastic bag. We don't necessarily seal it and then place it in a locker.
Would you write on the bag who the property belongs to?
Well, if it's personal property and it's going to be returned, it would go in a locker, typically that's associated with their cell. But if it's evidence, it would go, to a different place. It depends on the type of property you're talking about.
Would it be some type of identifying something to identify the property to the owner of the property?
Yes.
I like how Darrell started off this cross-exam as if he was going to come out and just obliterate Detective Carpenter with his questions or something like that. And then he gets started and he just pretty much lulls everyone to sleep because these questions it's pointless. It's the same pointless stuff that he does. He takes 5 minutes in between. He has to read them and it's insane. It's very silly.
When you came to the Waukesha County Jail to serve the warrant for the clothing or personal property, as you stated it, was that property sealed?
It was in a secure room.
Was it sealed?
Like the bag it was in? No.
The bag was just wide open?
I don't recall if it was wide open. They have it in a property bag that I don't remember the exact conditions of it.
Did it have any identifying name on it or a birth date or?
They utilized a system in which they looked up your name and the bag had a number. The number was associated to your name. So they were able to find it that way. And then, once I got in the bag, I recognized the clothing as your clothing.
So it'd be pretty fair to say that the system that they use is pretty easy to identify what property belongs to whom.
It seemed to be. To get the specifics on it, you'd have to ask them, but they looked up your name, hit a number, and your bag came right across.
Does your agency use a similar method?
No.
And what method does your agency use to identify property?
My agency would simply, we're not a large county jail, so we only hold about 5-6 people at a time. We would take personal property, put it in a paper bag, put that paper bag in a locker that typically would correspond with the cell number that you were placed in. And then your property would also be documented on an electronic form, so we knew it belonged to you.
You made reference to not being a large county jail. Are you referring to the holding station?
Our standard department that we're back in now has a municipal lockup. Correct. It's very small.
So it'd be the holding station.
They call it the police station, the booking room.
Police station, substation, holding station.
Yeah.
He's trying to pretend as if the way he words these questions aren't super confusing. It's what are you actually saying right now? The fact that he's able to follow along somewhat with what he's asking, it's an art form in and of itself. Because as I'm hearing what he's saying, I'm like, what? And then Detective Carpenter actually answers it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess I understand now, but very strange stuff. But he does have experience with, I guess, dealing with this type of stuff. And he already had
at any time during this second
conversation with
interrogation. Were there any other law enforcement watching the interrogation from another location?
Yes, there were.
Can you explain why?
Well, again, the FBI was present in a different room because we still did not know whether there was a terrorist nexus to this incident at that point.
Is that the only other law enforcement that was watching the interrogation?
There may have been some of our own officers. I don't know how, if they were moving around the building or I don't know what they were doing.
So it'd be fair to say you can't recall if
Correct.
But I was just gonna say he did have like a interrogation with him, so maybe that experience of knowing how he talks and stuff.
If at that time there was still uncertainty about the nature of the incident, to the point that the FBI still were kind of involved at that point, any reason why they wouldn't accompany you and your partner for the second interrogation as they did with the first?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained. Relevance, 90611.
Yes, we got a 90611 going. Love to hear that.
Is there any reason why the FBI couldn't conduct their own interrogation?
Objection. Calls for
Grounds.
speculation.
Sustained.
How would he know their process?
If you knew at that time that you and your partner would be conducting the second interrogation, why did the FBI need to be present?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Asked and answered. Next question.
Answered?
It's sustained.
You said asked and answered?
You've asked why the FBI was there multiple times.
That's true.
Your 90611.
I didn't even consider that. It's another 90611. Ask another pointless question, just like one or two more. He's been stuck in place this entire time.
Is it standard procedure for other law enforcement to watch interrogations from another location?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled. You may answer.
I wouldn't say it's standard, but this wasn't also a standard incident.
So the magnitude of the incident is what prompted the change?
That's right.
Do you recall who made that determination?
Objection, calls for speculation. Relevance.
He asked, do you know? So overruled. The witness may answer.
So I'm sorry, just so I understand the question correctly. Why the FBI is the question why they'd be there at all?
No, that wasn't the question.
What is it again?
The question was pertaining to standard procedures.
Okay.
That doesn't clear it up.
And I believe the question was,
He doesn't remember his own question.
You asked who made the determination to allow for other agencies to observe the
Right.
interview or interrogation.
Judge Darrell saves the day.
You're welcome.
I don't know exactly.
Thank you, Judge
I
Darrell.
only know that the FBI became involved due to the terrorist concern, so that's why they were there.
my question wasn't towards the FBI. It was law enforcement in general. Just to give more clarity, the question was, did you know who made the determination for other law enforcement to watch from another location?
No.
Were you at any time aware that there would be other law enforcement watching the second interrogation?
I knew the FBI was coming back, yes.
Did you know if there would be any other law enforcement outside of the FBI, like from your agency or anything like that? Were you aware that they would be watching as well?
Objection relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Not that I knew of.
But you do recall other law enforcement outside of the FBI being present.
Yeah, so we had an officer, based on you being in our custody, that had to stay in the room with you, their jail area for the night. I don't know how much of the interview that officer was or was not present for from another location.
Do you recall leaving out of the interrogation room during the second interrogation?
Yes.
And at that time, did you speak with any other law enforcement?
FBI.
He's gonna ask what they said to him.
And do you recall what those conversations were about?
Not specifically, no.
He loves
Do you
that. Well,
recall
what
if
did they
there
tell
was
you?
directives given by the FBI?
Objection hearsay.
Grounds.
Yes, do you know? Not what they were. You may answer.
I don't recall if they gave directives.
Do you recall your partner stepping out of the interrogation room at any time?
Yes.
Do you know if they spoke with FBI at that time?
If my partner did?
Yes.
I don't know.
At any time during the second interrogation, did the FBI leave?
Not that I know of.
So to your recollection, they were there the whole time?
I believe so, yes.
He refuses to end this
And,
cross-examination.
I want to go back to the phone for one quick second.
Again?
You made a reference to the kind of code on the phone. Do you recall what that was? In reference to the phones that you were intending to access.
You talking about, there were two, one of any one phone specific? You talking about the iPhone?
Yeah, the iPhone. I'm sorry.
Yes, you gave a pattern code.
Oh, and thank you. Someone mentioned, by the way, and I didn't even think about this for some reason. iPhones don't take pattern codes. At least I don't think they do. But I think somebody reminded me of that in the comment section. Like, it was certain things that he was saying during the interrogation that were just kind of flying over my head because I don't know. Like, whenever he talks for too long, I just I kind of like blank out sometimes. But yeah, thank you to whoever that was. So he even lied about that.
And what about the other phone?
No code was ever provided that I recall.
And do you recall if those two phones were placed in the evidence?
Yes, they would have been.
And did you place them in evidence?
I did not.
Do you recall whom?
I do not.
During your investigation, what? Let me back up. I don't want to say what. You made reference to the suspect being involved. During that initial information that you received, did you receive information that there were multiple suspects at any time?
We're talking about the parade incident at this point, yes, no?
The parade incident, yes.
Initially, yes. So, and I've covered this in prior testimony as well, it was very chaotic early on, and there were reports of possible multiple suspects, yes.
Just about does it. No further questions.
How much redirect, if any?
I have some. I would think I could get done in 10 minutes.
All right, I'm just going to have my jury stand for a minute. I need one too. And anyone else in the courtroom may do that.
All right, that was just a clown show. That's the only way I can describe it. It's the only way I can. While we're taking a break, I want to say thank you so much to Randy Mattox. I hope I'm saying your last name right. You guys know how I am with last names. But thank you so much for a $2 donation. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Someone else donated. I'm going to find your name while they're getting prepared for the next witness, I think. Or not the next witness, but...
Exhibit 174, which has previously been admitted into evidence. Do you recognize this form?
Objection, lead.
Overruled, the witness may answer. It's been testified to previously.
Yes, I do.
Sir, if you talk to the same person 3 different times while they're in custody, do you have to fill out a separate form each time you talk to them?
Objection.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
3 times.
Yes.
Would you have to fill out that top portion of the form each time?
Yes.
That's all I need for that exhibit. When we talk about, do you recall Mr. Brooks' questioning of you with regard to the recording
Objection.
made by your cell phone at Waukesha Memorial Hospital during the first meeting with
He keeps
the defendant?
interrupting her. She's
Objection, I was sent to being caught that night.
Noted, overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, I recall.
Are you familiar with the term excited utterance?
Yes, I
Objection,
am.
leading.
Oh, overruled, the witness may answer.
Sorry.
What is that?
It's when an individual, whether it be Mr. Brooks or any individual, begins making statements on their own accord in not response to a question. Typically, an utterance may reference why they're in custody in the situation that you were either questioning them about or preparing to question them about.
Is it important to capture those types of utterances on tape or recording?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, it is.
Would that be a reason to continue recording after an interview's been ended?
Objection, answered that already.
Overruled, the witness may answer. It's redirect.
Yes, it would.
With regard to the 2 phones, you indicated that someone else located the phones in the defendant's car. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in order to access the contents of a phone, if it's passcode protected, do you need the passcode to enter it?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
It makes it easiest. They can, the men that do that, the men and women that do that do have ways around it, but it makes it much more difficult without it.
And would it be fair to say that there's not all software can enter into all phones without the passcode?
Objection, speculative.
Sustained as to foundation.
Have you had experience in your position as a detective
His facial expressions.
seizing phones off of defendants?
Yes.
And have you had opportunities to turn those phones over to your forensic unit to have them analyzed?
Yes.
When you don't have a passcode or a swipe pattern, have you received those phones back with information that they were unable to be accessed.
Objection. Asked the form of that already and answered.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, I have.
So if you're not provided a code, or you're provided an incorrect code, there's a possibility, or are you definitely getting into that phone?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled.
No, there is certainly a possibility that we would not be able to access the content.
You had talked about on cross-examination your reports that you dictate over a phone line. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Those you testified were based upon your recollection?
Correct.
Do you take notes during interviews?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I do.
How is
Do you
that
use those notes at all when dictating your report?
Yes, I do.
The defendant asked you about multiple suspects. You having information about multiple suspects. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes, I do.
Did the defendant ever tell you that there was anyone in that car other than him driving it and possibly Erica Patterson?
Objection. Leading the witness.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, he did not.
And finally, you've been a law enforcement officer in Waukesha County for approximately 18 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who makes the charging decision when deciding what charges get issued in a criminal case?
Exactly.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
The prosecuting attorney at the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
You don't decide on the charges?
No.
Objection. Relevancy.
That's something I wanted to talk about too. Like he kept asking that during the interrogation, what are my charges? But he doesn't come up with that. He doesn't have any say in what your charges are going to ultimately be. But I'm really glad she asked this.
We can forward what we believe is appropriate, but we don't ultimately make the decision to charge.
So when Mr. Brooks asked you, what am I being charged with? Did you have any ability to tell him that?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Noted. Overruled. You may answer the question.
No, ma'am. Not with 100% certainty, no.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Detective, you may step down.
Man. All right, so that is the end of day 9. I don't even know where to begin with it. So Darrell finally got to confront Detective Carpenter, the man that he hates so much, as you know, as we all know. But once again, it was weird. He started it off as if he was gonna get him back for everything that he's done for him, and then he just went up there and read the questions off of the paper and failed miserably. I mean, I kind of expected that. I want to say thank you all so much for the nice comments. I saw everyone wishing me well, so I really do appreciate it. I feel fine now, so thank you so much for all the prayers, the well wishes. They definitely work because I feel much better, so thank you. But there are a few more donations. I want to say thank you so much to Rainy Puds for a $10 buy me a coffee donation. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for watching along, for continuing to watch, because once again, I understand, guys, this trial is crazy. I definitely want to always tell people that you don't have to send me a single thing, but if you want to donate to the community of Waukesha, it's down there for you. Thank you as well to Trish Davis for a $5 buy me a coffee donation. I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching along. Then we have another anonymous $15 buy me a coffee donation. Thank you so much to whoever you are. I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching along. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you did something good for somebody today. Hope somebody did something good for you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.